Good morning all of you. Once again welcome to the class of Human Anatomy and Physiology. In today's chapter we will be studying about the heart and blood vessels, and we call this as cardiovascular system, and this is the last unit of your syllabus. So this is similar to that of a lymphatic system. So we have studied lymphatic system, so in which it consists of lymph vessels, lymph nodes, lymphatic organs and all. But the only difference between this lymphatic system and cardiovascular system is lymphatic system does not have any pumping organ which allows the movement of lymph. Lymph moves in the lymph vessels based upon the compressions that are created by the muscles or the adjacent blood vessels. Whereas in the cardiovascular system we have a separate functioning pump called as heart. Let's see them in detail. Cardiovascular system, it consists of heart and blood vessels. So we will be studying about the heart and the blood vessels in this cardiovascular system. Heart, it pumps the blood. We know that heart is an organ which pumps the blood, and it pumps the blood into two different circuits, or we call them as systems. So it pumps the blood to two different systems. So they are differentiated as pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. Pulmonary circulation, in the sense it originates from the right side of the heart, means the blood, it originates from the right side of the heart to the lungs, and where the gaseous exchange occurs. Gaseous exchange in the sense, we have seen we are breathing in oxygen and we are exhaling out the carbon dioxide, and this exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide occurs in the lungs, and the blood that is supplied from the right side of the heart, it goes to the lungs, and from lungs it comes back to the heart. So we can say that the deoxygenated blood goes to the heart, and from there to the lungs, and from the lungs the oxygenated blood comes back to the heart. So this is called as pulmonary circulation. And the other circuit or the other system into which the blood is pumped by the heart is systemic circulation. Systemic circulation, it originates from the left side of the heart, and from the left side of the heart it is distributed to all parts of the body. In systemic circulation, the oxygenated blood which comes from the lungs, it is supplied to all parts of the body from the left side of the heart, and from there the oxygen is once again supplied to the tissues, and the carbon dioxide from the different tissues will be collected by the blood, and this deoxygenated blood once again reaches the heart. This is called as systemic circulation. So we can differentiate the blood supply from the heart into systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. These are the two different circuits or systems into which the heart will pump or the blood will move in the body. Cardiovascular system is essential to ensure continuous flow of blood in the body, and this is mediated through various factors to maintain the adequate amount of blood flow and blood pressure. We have seen that we will be studying about heart and blood vessels. First, let's see about blood vessels. Generally, there are different types of blood vessels in the body, and these blood vessels, they vary in the size they vary in the shape and they vary in the structure. All these blood vessels, they vary is size, shape and structure, and they are of different types such as arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules and veins. So, these are the different types of blood vessels which differ in terms of their size, shape and structure. We will see them in detail. First, let us see about arteries and arterioles. Arteries are the blood vessels and arterioles also are the blood vessels which carry blood from the heart to all the tissues in the body, to all the tissues, to all the cells, to all the organs. The arteries and arterioles will carry the blood from the heart to all the tissues in the body, and this vary in size, and generally they have 3 layers in their structure or in their wall. The artery wall, you can see as it is in the diagram, when the artery is dissected, you can find 3 different layers. The 3 different layers are tunica adventitia, tunica media and tunica intima. Tunica adventitia, tunica media and tunica intima are the 3 different layers of cardiovascular blood vessels. Tunica adventitia, it is the outermost layer. You can see in the diagram, tunica adventitia is the outermost layer and it is made up of tough fibrous tissue. Fibrous tissue is once again a type of connective tissue, and this tough outer fibrous tissue forms the tunica adventitia, whereas in the middle it consists of tunica media, and this tunica media, it consists of 2 different types of tissues. They are smooth muscle tissue and elastic tissue. Smooth muscle tissue and elastic tissue, whereas tunica intima, it consists of squamous epithelial cells, and here this squamous epithelium cells are called as endothelium. So, these are the 3 different types of tissues that are present in the wall of blood vessel: tunica adventitia, tunica media and tunica intima. Tunica adventitia is made up of fibrous tissue, tunica media is made up of muscle tissue and elastic tissue, whereas tunica intima is made up of squamous epithelial tissue, or we call it as endothelium. Next, we will see how the amount of different tissues vary in different types of blood vessels. We have seen that all the blood vessels will have these 3 layers: tunica adventitia, tunica media and tunica intima. But the amounts of these tissues, it differs in different types of blood vessels. We will see them in detail. Generally, the amount of muscle tissue and elastic tissue differs in different types of blood vessels, and based upon this concentration, we can differentiate the function of that particular blood vessel. The larger arteries, generally that artery which comes out from the heart, it is called as aorta, AORTA, and other arteries which are larger, generally they have more elastic tissue than that of muscle tissue. Understood? The larger arteries such as aorta and other large arteries, they have more elastic tissue in the tunica media. The amount of muscle tissue is less, and this allows the artery to stretch. Because of elastic tissue, the artery, when the blood is flowing with more force, this allows the artery to stretch. So, generally we can feel whenever the pulse, if we see the pulse, we can see the throbbing movement of the pulse. This is because of the elastic nature of that particular blood vessels, and here larger arteries have more elastic tissue, whereas this proportions of elastic tissue and muscle tissue, they gradually change. Generally, in the case of arterioles, the elastic tissue will get reduced and it is replaced by more amount of muscle tissue, so that the blood pressure can be regulated by nerve stimulation, because smooth muscle is under the control of autonomic nerves, and this contraction or relaxation of this smooth muscle can be regulated by this autonomic nerves, and due to contraction or relaxation of smooth muscle, the blood vessel diameter can be increased or decreased, and this enables to regulate the pressure and diameter of the blood vessels. That is, the larger arteries will have more elastic tissue, whereas arterioles are smaller blood vessels than arteries, and these arterioles, they have more amount of muscle tissue, and these are very important in maintaining the blood pressure. Arteries, they have thick walls than that of veins. So, in this diagram you can see two different types of blood vessels. So, one is the artery and the other is the vein. You can see the artery, it is round and it is stiff because it has more amount of elastic and muscle tissues, whereas you can see that blood vessel which is collapsed. So, it is a vein. So, it consists of less amount of elastic and muscle tissue, hence when you cut the vein it immediately collapses, whereas when you cut the artery it remains stiff because it has a more amount of elastic and muscle tissues. Now, let us see about other types of blood vessels which carry oxygenated blood. So, these are different from that of arteries and arterioles. They are called as anastomosomes and end arteries. Anastomosomes and end arteries are two different types of blood vessels. Anastomosomes generally are arteries that form a link between other arteries. We can see artery is something which moves continuously, but anastomosomes are arteries which form a link between two different arteries. So, such type of arteries can be seen in the palm of hand, in the sole of foot, they can be seen in the brain, they can be seen in the joint, and they can be seen in the heart. And if one artery it is occluded, if one artery is occluded, this anastomosome will facilitate the movement of the blood through the other artery. You can see in the diagram the anastomosomes in the palm of the hand. So, here you can see that there are different arteries, and these arteries are interconnected by the blood vessels. And other type of arteries which carry oxygenated blood are called as end arteries, and this end arteries are ending, means they will not continue with the other veins, or it is not continuous, so they will end. So, if and these are the only source of blood supply to that particular organs. Examples: the central artery which supplies blood to the retina, and the circulus arteriosus, which is an artery which is circle and it supplies blood to the brain. So, these are the two different examples of end arteries, because they are not continuous and they are ending there itself. If blood supply to this arteries, if it is occluded, the organ will not get the blood supply, automatically it leads to the death of that particular tissues. So, these are the other types of blood vessels which carry oxygenated blood. We have seen arteries, arterioles, anastomosomes and end artery. Next we will see the further reduction of these arterioles, and they form capillaries and sinusoids. The arteries are larger, the arterioles are smaller, and the capillaries are further smaller. So, they gradually reduce in size from arteries to arterioles to capillaries, and these capillaries are once again of two different types. One are general capillaries and the other are sinusoids. The smallest arterioles, they break into number of minute blood vessels called as capillaries. The arterioles, once again, they divide into smaller blood vessels, and these smaller blood vessels are called as capillaries. And the capillary wall, it does not consist of tunica adventitia, tunica media and tunica intima. It consists of only single layer of epithelial cells on a thin basement membrane, which consists of single layer of epithelial cells through which water and all the small molecules can easily pass through the membrane into the tissues. So, this is capillaries. So, capillaries are having a single layer of endothelial cells, and these capillaries, they form a large network of smaller blood vessels, and this smaller arterioles which divide into capillaries, and the capillaries once again unite to form venules. Arterioles divide into capillaries, capillaries once again unite to form venules, and the diameter of the capillaries is very small. It will be about 7 micrometer and is approximately the size of the blood. And generally the capillaries are the site of exchange of gases between the blood and the tissues. When the blood that reaches the various tissues through this capillaries, the oxygen is readily removed into the tissues and the carbon dioxide is collected by the blood that is supplied to this thing here. So, hence these capillaries are the smallest blood vessels where the gaseous exchange occurs between the blood and the tissues, and all these cells generally they lie very close to the capillaries except those of the skin and the cornea of eye. All the other capillaries are very close to the tissues. Generally, the entry of capillary bed has a precapillary sphincter or an opening which regulates the flow of this blood into the capillaries, and they dilate and increase the blood flow in conditions such as hypoxia, or in the case where there is an excessive tissue waste. So, if there is an hypoxic condition, means when there is a reduced oxygen in the tissues, or if there is more amount of waste in the tissues, in such cases these sphincters will open, leading to dilation of capillaries, and they will produce more oxygen, or we can say they will collect more waste. And those capillaries which are present in the liver and bone marrow, these are called sinusoids. So, these are also capillaries, but they are called as sinusoids because the gaps or spaces that are present between two endothelial cells is more in this type of capillaries, and these type of capillaries also have certain macrophages in them, such as Kupffer cells are also present in this capillaries, and this type of capillaries which have large spaces between the endothelial cells and macrophages, these are called as sinusoids, and these sinusoids are incomplete blood vessels because they are having large spaces in between them, and this allows the movement of more amount of substances between the blood and the tissues. And since these are more leakier, or we can say these are somewhat dilated than the blood capillaries, the blood flow through these blood vessels, it is slow, and the cells are directly exposed to the blood, we can say, because there are more spaces, the cells are directly exposed to the blood. So, this type of blood vessels, it can be seen in the bone marrow and in liver. So, these are the capillaries and sinusoids. We have seen arteries, arteries divide into arterioles, arterioles divides into either capillaries or sinusoids. Now, what happens? These capillaries carry oxygenated blood and they supply the oxygen to the tissues, they collect the waste from the tissues, and once again this waste collected by the capillaries will be carried continuously, and these capillaries once again they combine or to form venules. Next we will see this type of blood vessels which are called as venules and veins. The venules and veins are the blood vessels. These veins and venules they carry the deoxygenated blood and they carry the waste from various cells and they return the blood to the heart. So, we have seen that the blood from the heart will be carried through the arteries, from there to the arterioles, from there to the capillaries, and from the capillaries to the tissues, and from the tissues the blood is collected through the venules. So, here this blood once again it returns to the heart by the venules and veins, and these venules and veins generally they carry the blood at a low pressure. The pressure of the blood that is coming from the heart will be high, whereas the pressure that is present in the veins and venules will be low. We will see about the blood pressure in the next classes. Now, this venules are having less amount of smooth muscle and elastic tissue. So, we have seen the diagram in which the vein when it is cut transversely it collapses because it does not have adequate amount of muscle tissue and elastic tissue, whereas arteries it stands still because it is having large amount of muscle tissue and elastic tissue. And here the veins are less thicker than the arteries because these veins operate at a low blood pressure, so that the amount of pressure that is exerted by the blood will be less, and so these veins are less thicker than that of arteries. And some larger veins they have valves, and these valves are semilunar shaped cups. You can see in the diagram the valves are semilunar shaped cups, and this allows the backflow of the blood because these veins have to carry the deoxygenated blood from long distances to the heart. Imagine carrying the deoxygenated blood from the legs to the heart. So, it has to travel for a long distance, and the veins the blood flows at low pressure, and there is chance that the blood comes back because of this gravitational force. So, that semilunar cups which are present in these large veins especially they prevent the backflow of blood, so that they facilitate the movement of blood in only one direction from the lower parts of the body to the heart. And especially veins are absent, valves are absent in very small and very large veins, whereas veins are called as capacitance blood vessels, whereas arterioles are called as resistance blood vessels and veins are called as capacitance blood vessels. Resistance blood vessels and capacitance blood vessels, I want you to remember this, resistance blood vessels and capacitance blood vessels, because we will be coming across these terms in the next classes. Arterioles are called as resistance blood vessels because they have muscle tissue and they resist the flow of blood, whereas veins they do not have muscle tissue and they do not resist, and they are called as capacitance blood vessels because they have a capacity to hold a large amount of blood because they are thin, and this veins they distend and have the capacity to hold large proportion of blood. So at any time 2/3 of the blood of our body it is present in the veins. Can you understand? Only 1/3 will be present in the arteries, whereas 2/3 of the blood is present in the venous system. And generally this is necessary for adjusting the sudden changes in blood volume, and generally they constrict to prevent fall in blood pressure. So in any sudden loss of blood, in such cases this blood that is present in the veins will be utilized, and they also prevent the fall of blood volume. And generally blood vessels also are supplied with blood vessels. Understood? The blood vessels have different types of tissues, and these tissues also will receive the blood supply, and this blood vessels which supply the blood to the blood vessels is called as vasorum, and generally it is necessary for only thick blood vessels, whereas thin blood vessels they are single layered. So automatically the tissues are very close in contact with the top blood vessel, so that exchange of gases occur, whereas thick blood vessels they have large amount of elastic tissue and muscle tissue, and so that they are not in direct contact with the blood. So such thick blood vessels they are supplied with blood vessels which are called as vasorum. Now let us see how the blood vessel diameter is regulated. We have seen the blood vessel, and the blood is flowing in the blood vessel. When the blood is coming out from the heart, large amount of blood will come out from the heart. So this will lead to distension of the larger artery, and once again it contracts because of more amount of elastic tissue. Whereas in the case of smaller arterioles, we have seen elastic tissue is less, but muscle tissue is more, and generally the muscle tissues also are under the control of nervous system, and that muscle that is present in the smaller blood vessels is smooth muscle, and smooth muscle is under the influence of involuntary nerves, that is autonomic nervous system. And this autonomic nerves they arise from the vasomotor center in the medulla oblongata. So in the medulla oblongata we have an vasomotor center, and from this vasomotor center the autonomic nerves will arise, and from there these are supplied to different types of blood vessels. And autonomic nervous system it controls the arterioles more than that of venules, because arterioles will have more amount of smooth muscle tissue, whereas venules will have very less amount of smooth muscle tissue, and arterioles are more elastic, whereas venules are less elastic. Even this autonomic nervous system it is having less influence in larger arteries such as aorta, because the amount of muscle tissue that is present in such type of aorta or large arteries is less. If there is no muscle tissue, autonomic nervous system cannot control. So autonomic nervous system it mostly controls the arterioles, and that resistance of the blood flow means generally when the blood is flowing through a tube, if the blood vessel is constricted, what happens? The diameter is constricted. So once it is constricted, it will restrict the flow of blood, and this restriction of blood flow it depends upon one, the diameter of the blood vessel, next thing is volume of the blood, or we can say viscosity of the blood, and the length of the blood vessel. So these are the three factors which will regulate the resistance of the blood vessel against the blood, that is diameter of the blood vessel, length of the blood vessel, and viscosity of the blood flow. So the length of the blood vessel or the viscosity of the blood will almost be constant, so it is only the diameter that regulates the blood resistance. Smooth muscles of the tunica media of arteries or arterioles are supplied with sympathetic nerves. So, in autonomic nervous system we have two different types of nerves. They are parasympathetic nerves and sympathetic nerves. So, parasympathetic nerves are not directly supplied to the smooth muscle of blood vessel. Only sympathetic nerves are supplied to the smooth muscle or tunica media of blood vessel. General effect of this sympathetic nervous system on blood vessel is it maintains a baseline tone, means it maintains the contraction of that particular blood vessel. So, when we will see how an increase in sympathetic nerve activity or a decrease in sympathetic nerve activity, how it will affect the diameter of this blood vessel. So, let us see these are the three different states of a blood vessel. So, here you can see in the first case it is a normal blood vessel, whereas in the second case it is a dilated blood vessel, whereas in the third case it is a constricted blood vessel. And you can see the sympathetic nerve stimulation. So, when it is normal, so it is constricted. When the sympathetic nerve stimulation is decreased, it leads to dilation. When the sympathetic nerve stimulation is increased, it leads to constriction. Means we have seen that sympathetic nerves, they always maintain one slight contraction of this smooth muscle, so that the blood vessel appears to be in that case. When the sympathetic nerve activity is reduced, what happens? Automatically it becomes relaxed. This leads to dilation. Whereas when the sympathetic activity is increased, this leads to constriction of muscle tone. So, we can see here the smooth muscle, it is relaxed in the case of increased sympathetic activity or vasodilation, whereas the smooth muscle is constricted in the case of increased sympathetic activity. The smooth muscle is relaxed in the case of decreased sympathetic activity, and the smooth muscle is constricted in the case of increased sympathetic activity. And the thickness of vessel wall, so it is thinner in the case of decreased sympathetic activity, whereas the thickness will increase when the sympathetic activity is increased. In the same way, the diameter is also increased with decreased sympathetic activity, whereas the diameter is decreased with increased sympathetic activity. So, the peripheral resistance in arterioles, it is decreased with decreased sympathetic activity, and it is increased with increased sympathetic activity. Now, let us see about various factors which are essential in regulating the blood flow. We have seen one factor that regulates the blood flow is sympathetic nerve stimulation, so which causes constriction or relaxation of the smooth muscle, leading to constriction or relaxation of the blood vessel. Apart from this, there are various other factors which regulate the blood flow. So, these is one, it is auto regulation. So, generally various blood vessels in different organs, they have this ability to automatically regulate the amount of blood that is supplied to that particular tissue. So, example, in the case of liver, in the case of central nervous system, especially brain, and in the case of kidney, generally they receive more blood, and they have this ability to dilate or to constrict automatically, and this is called as auto regulation. Other examples, so these are the organs which have this auto regulation, and they receive more amount of blood than all the other organs, liver, brain, and kidney. Whereas some other organs such as muscles, at rest they receive less amount of the blood, but when we increase any physical activity or any exercise, and this blood flow to that particular muscles will increase to about 20 times than that of normal blood flow. And blood flow to the gastrointestinal tract, to the stomach and to the intestine will increase after the meals. If we eat, the blood flow to the tissues to in the stomach and intestine will be increased here. And blood flow to the skin, it is adjusted by changes in temperature. So, in this way auto regulation also occurs in different conditions and in different organs. We have seen how liver, brain and kidney, they automatically regulate the amount of blood that is supplied to these organs. Apart from this, muscles at rest and in the case of exercise, and to the stomach and intestines after food and before food. And apart from this, there are other factors which are involved in local control of blood flow. Here the metabolic waste such as carbon dioxide and lactic acid. So, which are the metabolic waste of cellular metabolism. After cell metabolism, carbon dioxide is formed, lactic acid is formed, and this increase in carbon dioxide and lactic acid will facilitate more amount of blood flow, because it has to be removed. So, that blood which is coming in will take this out. So, hence the blood flow is increased because of increased carbon dioxide and lactic acid. And generally during the time of cellular metabolism, the temperature of the cell will increase, and this increase in temperature of the cells or the tissues will also increase the amount of blood that is flowing to the tissues. And hypoxia or reduced oxygen content in the tissues will lead to vasodilation. So, more amount of the blood comes to that particular tissues, whereas some chemicals such as adrenaline and angiotensin, these cause vasoconstriction. So, they reduce the amount of blood that is supplied to the tissues, whereas some factors which are released by the endothelium such as nitric oxide and some histamine and bradykinin, these causes vasodilation. So, in this way these are the factors which regulate the blood flow to any tissues, and this occurs only to the any particular region, whereas in the case of sympathetic nervous system it appears to the whole of the nerves that are supplied to the smooth muscles, whereas these are locally, means if this nitric oxide is released here, it will cause vasodilation only here, or if adrenaline is released here, only this thing is released here. In this way the local control also is involved in maintaining the blood flow. Now, let us see about the exchange of gases. Now, we have seen the blood from the heart, it comes to the arteries and to the arterioles, to the capillaries, and in the capillaries the blood is in close contact with the cells, so that the oxygen that is carried by the blood will be supplied to the cells, and the carbon dioxide that is formed in the cells will be carried back into the blood, and this will be carried away. So, here you can see the red and the blue color. The red side, it represents all this thing, it represents a capillary and tissues, blood capillary which is closely associated with the tissues, and the red color indicates the arterial end of the blood capillary, whereas the blue color indicates the venous end. It means the oxygen rich blood has come here, it has supplied the oxygen, and once the oxygen is supplied, it becomes oxygen deficient and the carbon dioxide comes in. This leads to formation of venous blood. So, in this way exchange of gases occurs near the cells, and we have seen that these capillaries are highly permeable. Water and other soluble substances, they easily enter into the tissues, and once again this comes back into the tissues because of the presence of plasma proteins. So an osmotic pressure will be created so that they once again come back into the tissues. We have seen some about 21 liters of blood will enter into the tissues from the blood vessels per day, and about 17 liters come back, and the remaining we have seen it enters into the lymphatic ducts. So in the second diagram you can see how the blood is supplied to the tissues and how the fluid from the tissues come back into the blood vessels, and some amount of this fluid once again enters into the lymph vessels. And this process of exchange of gases between the blood vessels and the tissues, it is called as internal respiration, whereas that process of exchange of gases between the blood vessels and the alveoli of lungs, it is called as external respiration. And this process of exchange of gases between the blood vessels and the tissues is called as internal respiration. And oxyhemoglobin, which is formed by binding the oxygen with the hemoglobin in the alveoli, it is highly unstable and it readily dissociates to oxygen and hemoglobin. And the factors that facilitate this ready dissociation we have seen in the case of chapter blood, where such as low pH, high temperature and low oxygen levels in the tissues will cause ready dissociation of oxygen from hemoglobin. So in this way the oxygen is supplied to the tissues and the carbon dioxide is collected from the tissues, and this carbon dioxide which is removed from the tissues, 7% of this carbon dioxide will be dissolved in the blood water or plasma water, and 70% it combines with sodium to form sodium bicarbonate, and about 23% it binds with hemoglobin. And generally the movement of fluid across the capillary wall, it depends upon different types of pressures called as hydrostatic pressure and osmotic pressure. So here hydrostatic pressure is the blood pressure that pushes the fluid from the blood vessel into the tissues through the capillary endothelium. It is called as hydrostatic pressure, whereas osmotic pressure is the one which pulls back the fluid from the tissues into the blood capillaries. So hydrostatic pressure pushes the blood from the blood vessel to the tissues. Osmotic blood pressure pulls the fluid from the tissues into the blood capillaries. So let us see how these pressures differ in the blood capillaries. We have seen the blood capillaries are having an arterial end which has oxygenated blood and a venous end which has deoxygenated blood. The hydrostatic pressure in the arterial end is 35 millimeter mercury level, whereas the osmotic pressure is 25. So it is less. So more amount of fluid will go into the tissues. Whereas in the venous end, the osmotic pressure is 25, whereas the hydrostatic pressure is only 15. So more amount of blood it comes back into the tissues. Generally, we have seen this exchange of fluid, it occurs, and some amount of fluid it does not come back into the capillaries and it will be collected by lymph vessels, and this enters into the lymphatic system, and this lymphatic system once again it is connected into the blood vessels. We have seen the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct, they open into left and right subclavian veins. So in this way once again this comes back into the circulatory system.